Good morning, good evening, depending upon what part of the world you're in. If it's Friday, it is the CEO series where we bring together the most phenomenal leaders from across the globe and they share their career journey. And I'm so honored today to have a dear friend. We've been knowing each other for years and years and years. Marina Van Zyl. She is the co-founder and CEO of Platform for Connected Leadership, where she leads transformative leadership initiatives across the Middle East and beyond. Just opened an office in Saudi Arabia, so all my Saudi Arabia people listening in, be sure and listen in a little closer. She also spearheads LEAD, LEAD in Saudi Arabia, and Lumin in Namibia, extending her impact into the Gulf and African regions. A certified ENEA international practitioner and member of Harvard Business Review Advisory Council, she is known for her emotionally intelligent and purpose-driven leadership. I love that. How are you?
I'm getting you, Ron.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm so happy to have you here. We've been knowing each other for a while, going back and forth. And this is the first time we've met, even if it is virtual. But we're going to change that. So walk us through the journey. How do you become a leadership expert?
Well, Ron, just to point out, when you and I met, I was very much not a leadership expert, nor was I a CEO yet. So that's how long we've known each other. Um, Look, I am not going to call myself a leadership expert. Over the years, it's been a journey, and my journey actually started, a long time ago. I had to just verify the story today just to make sure, but I pretty much started doing my own thing, negotiating, what I will do in terms of what you're going to pay me for it, and what I'm going to do with my life when I was about, well, according to my parents, about 4 or 5 years old. I would negotiate tasks for candy. And the first time I ever tried running my own business, I was apparently around 7 or 8 years old. And I dug up my mother's garden to try and sell it.
Hmm.
But that's kind of, just the back end of it. I obviously had a conventional career. I started at the age of 19, as a going into business thinking I'm going to rule and conquer the world. Um, but that really didn't go that way. I obviously, went through the pathways, did all of everything that had to be done, but I kind of made my decision on going into leadership development when I was around the age of 21. I was sitting in a final presentations room, dealing with a group of people that I worked with for the very first time in my life. And I was watching them do these presentations, and I thought to myself, that's what I want to do with my life. I want to be part of that growth, that journey, where you're helping somebody else make a difference in their lives.
Mhm.
Um, and kind of sort of just went from there. I spent a lot of time working in various companies. With some, I learned really great stuff that I took with me. With others, I learned how not to do it. So, the whole thing of PCL was our platform for connected leadership. We just call it PCL, was to do something different in life, to make a difference in people's lives, and kind of challenge leadership development and the conventional thinking behind it.
Mhm.
So it's not that big of a fantastic journey. It's kind of how I decided I wanted to run my life.
Yeah.
It's the difference that I wanted from my life, and it's sort of the decision that I made that, aside from the fact that I'll probably never be able to work for a boss again in my life, I wanted to bring something to the world that's different, something that's new, but also something that can live on. And I kind of found that in training and development.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love the 4 to 5 year old. 4 to 5 year old. I learned how to negotiate. I think a lot of kids do the same thing. You know what I mean? Why is that, Dad? Why do we keep doing this?
Like, I also negotiated my pocket money. I mean, back then, chores was part of your job as a kid in the house. You didn't have a choice. You had
Mhm.
to learn how to do the dishes. And I apparently, agreed to say, for every task that I do, you're gonna have to pay me. We'll negotiate what you're paying me, but you're gonna have to pay me.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned how not to do it. Because here's my thought. I've always said you learn I think you learn more from bad managers than you do from good managers. That's always been my thought because that's I don't want to do that. When you said how not to do it because of the flip side of the good manager.
Look, yes, there's a lot that can be said for how not to do it. I
Mhm.
mean, and I can sort of draw on your own personal experiences here. You also work in training and development, um, and I have had experiences where, that saying the client is always right. I don't necessarily always agree with that.
Yeah.
In my view, the people that I'm collaborating with and working with to provide the service to the client, yes, don't get me wrong, okay, you need to have the relationship with your client, but I find the people that I have part of my team, whether it's a facilitator that we're bringing in or the person that needs to run the diaries, equally important. Because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you can give the client as much as you want. If they, for whatever reason, decide they're not happy, then they're not going to be happy. But
Exactly.
my faculty and the people that I work with, those are the people that I rely on day to day. I find them to be extremely important to what we do.
Hmm.
I would not have my business without my faculty. I'm not a leadership expert in the sense of training. I can't do what you do. I can't do what some of the other faculty do. So because of that, I've learned the hard way that you can't break those relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't. What would you say during that journey that you're most proud of? Because when you walk through here, 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 detours, I call it left turns, detours, right turns. When you look back on that now, what would you say was, oh my goodness, this I'm more proud of this particular journey, a piece of that journey than anything else. So maybe one or two.
Like, it's not particularly something that I could. Okay, yes, there are a lot that I can be proud of. Um, I'm extremely proud of the team that I have with me. I find days, and I've had this before, where that one person in the classroom where you're not sure whether or not they're going to be making it till the end of the training program.
Yeah.
um, and then you actually watch how people pull together. They spend more time with that person. They give them the little extra attention that they need. And then at the end of the day, when it's time, because we have the final presentations that we do at the end of our training programs, and you watch this person having gone from somebody in the room
Yeah.
that didn't say a word, they did not feel comfortable asking questions. And then towards the end of the journey, you can actually see the change in them. You can see the way they now present, ask questions, you know, uh, respond. That for me is probably the best part, the most proudest part of what I do.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk about my journey overall, I mean, the only thing that I that I personally am proud of is I have had a lot of trips and falls in my life. Some of them have resulted in physical injury. So literally, not just the physical, not just the figurative trips and falls, but the actual ones.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I'm at least proud of myself is that perseverance to get back up again. I mean, life is not always easy. Sometimes, not know if I'm allowed to say this, but sometimes it sucks. And it's
You
that
can't say it. This is an adult program. You can say it.
it's it's getting back up again, and it's trying to just figure out, what do I do if what I did today didn't work? What can I change and do differently to make it work tomorrow?
Yeah. You mentioned perseverance. You get knocked down, you get back up. Great plan. You get knocked down again, you get back up. Give me a little more on that one.
Look, there are days where I get knocked down.
Yeah.
And to be very honest, there are some days where I prefer to stay down for the day.
Mm.
I'm not dealing with it on that day. Creativity and energy and pulling yourself back up every single day is not always easy.
Okay.
And I've learned over the years that, to take the day and go and think about it, reflect, do what you have to do, go for a walk, whatever it is, that helps, kind of helps you balance that again.
Oh,
So, I have days where if I'm not feeling it, or it's not working, or then I kind of go with that flow. But I don't stay in that flow. So, I mean, everybody across the world had exactly the same experience, whether it was slightly different or just a little bit altered between 2020 and 2021.
yeah.
Now, what made it particularly challenging for me and my team is we had just registered. We had just opened the company. We had just opened a training company that's going to do face to face training. And we were going to change the world, only to be shut down 3 months later. Now, in
Yes.
those types of in those types of situations, most people, and I'm not generalizing, and I'm not talking for everyone, but it's not going to be easy to try and get over that or move around from it. But we kind of did, and that's where and I know this story, the millennial CEO that digitized the organization.
Yeah, I know, I know. That resonated with me so much because I flew into Singapore a few months back and I was just at the lowest point. And I checked in the hotel on a Friday. I had to go out and get some work done. But a Saturday morning, I woke up raining outside. I mean, torrential rains outside. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to lay in bed and watch TV. And I felt so guilty initially saying that, but it was the best decision ever.
Mm,
And that sinks in exactly what you were saying. Some days when you're just not feeling it, just calm down. As my
yeah,
mother would say, just breathe. And
breathe,
it worked.
you know, decompress, take the day. You know, I I'm one of those people. I have this entire list of movies that I never get around to. On those days, I do. So, and you're right. In the beginning, you feel so guilty. You feel so, you're not being productive. You're not doing your part. You're not getting to it. Take the day, breathe.
Yeah.
Watch that movie, read that book.
Yeah.
It's actually at the end of the day, because in that moment, you're actually taking care of yourself, and by taking care of yourself, you manage to take care of whatever it is that you have to the next day.
Yeah, I teach a course here in Dubai, American University in the Emirates, and it's an MBA program. And I always talk about these kinds of conversations we're having now, because you come out, you get that MBA, and all you think is a ladder, and I'm just going to keep going, 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 and that first step goes someplace else. Next step, someplace else. How do I get back on track? But this is why we started the CEO series to talk about those things, because it's not as easy as it looks when you see someone here and the challenges they go through. And you just
Mhm.
gave us a master class on that.
Well, you're welcome. So yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's about taking care of yourself, allowing
Hmm.
that same space for the other
Hmm.
people that you have in your life, in your team, people that you
Yeah,
work with.
yeah.
So yeah.
So one of the questions I had to ask you, but I said you've covered that already. On days when you're waking up and you're just not feeling it, and this is why I said that was a master class on it, because I felt guilty. Why are you? Why are you in the bed at 11 o'clock during the day and you're in Singapore? You can be doing so many things. And I said, not today. I'm just going
Hmm.
to do this, and I'm going to be cool as it relates to that. So thank you for that. So how would you describe your style, or how do you build your style over a period of time? And I know you're probably the first one I've ever heard say you started negotiating at 4 or 5 years old. So that was kind of a platform to move from that. But where did your style come from? Where does your leadership style come from?
Look, where it comes from, I don't know. I mean, that can be anything from being, the eldest daughter, to being a middle child and having younger siblings and an older one that I needed to negotiate with. Being the youngest in the office when I started, I was 19 when I started my first job. Um, I am roughly between the ages of 12 and 21 years younger than the other partners in the business. But that's just the one side of it. I mean, for me, look, I know my leadership style. When you classify it, it's affiliative. I like to build relationships. I like to work with the team. Um, I am much more concerned about the people in my organization than the task. I'm the type of I'll get a WhatsApp to say, I'm going somewhere today, I'll be around at 12. It's like, you go do you, you know, as long as what you have to do gets done, you
Yeah.
can go do you.
Mhm.
Um, but for me, it's always been about the relationship. And whether it is, Merlinda that is sorting out my diary, and you've
Yeah.
dealt with Merlinda in the past,
Yes,
or
ma'am.
whether it's somebody that needs to deal with social media or sales or finances, finances, those guys as well. I kind of just want to know, are you okay? Is everything that you've done there? Do you need anything from me? I say that a lot.
Mhm.
I'm apparently not always allowed to say it because, but I want to help. It's what I do. I want to make sure everybody is comfortable, everybody's taken care of.
Mhm.
So that's kind of who I am. For me, I wouldn't classify it as a specific leadership style. I know it can be tested, and I know it can have a specific jargon and wording that goes to it. But for me, that's it. I just want to make sure that the people that I work with, whether it's faculty all the way through, you
Mm.
know, are you comfortable with what's happening? I have this saying, and I've always had this saying. I used to travel the African continent quite a lot. Is if I don't want to do it, I don't see why somebody else should.
Okay.
So, and I kind of deal with that on a day-to-day basis in everything that I do as well. So,
Okay. I love that. So I want to put you in a scenario. You're giving a speech to a audience of CEOs, the so-called big shots. What are some key must-haves, would you say, for leaders today? What are some takeaway moments, one or two bullet points that you would give them to talk about? Because I mean, you do this every day. They're coming to a conference and they think they're the greatest leaders in the world until somebody pulls their coat and says, "Dude, it's not like that." What what are some key must-haves, would you say, for the new era of leadership? And I say that because the customer is different, the dynamics of the workforce, DNA of the workforce is totally skewing a different direction from what we had just taking orders.
mm,
Give, give us a couple.
like, so this saying exists in the company where we say that different people see different things and see things differently. Um, so at the end of the day, just from my perspective, I mean, I've worked I've worked in around 17 countries in my lifetime. I deal with different generations, different cultures, different mannerisms. So all of that, if you take all of the big words, if you take cultural competence, if you take, understanding, all of that into one word, I would say I would have to call it flexibility. Flexibility in terms of the people that you're working with. You're dealing with different people who think different, who look at things differently, who come from different cultural backgrounds, who work differently. I mean, I have an IT guy that will email me at 2 a.m. in the morning. I'm not going to email him back, but that's his style. That's how he does it.
Yes.
So flexibility for me is one of the biggest keys right now. Um, and questioning, by questioning I mean curiosity. I heard a fantastic thing. I was on a webinar yesterday, and one of the moderators actually said, if there was one thing that she wished she knew when she was younger, is that asking a question is just as important as having the answer. Having the answer is one thing, but if you're not satisfied with the answer, or the answer is not entirely what you were looking for, there's absolutely nothing wrong with asking again. And through that you actually get to learn a lot. You find out somebody else's perspective, you look at something from a different opinion.
Yeah.
um, and then at the end of the day, yeah, it becomes a reiterative process.
Hmm.
And then I suppose, if I have to add one more,
Okay.
um,
They're
I,
listening.
yeah, I would say that, aside from having the flexibility for the cultural understanding of what you're dealing with, and not just diversity cultures, the flexibility, asking the questions, but also the reflection to go and think about it.
Mm.
Um, a lot of the times I get so many different opinions and viewpoints,
Yeah.
sometimes asked for, sometimes not asked for. Sometimes I'll take it into consideration, and other times just having somebody else's perspective allows me to think about it differently. It might not be something that I end up doing or taking in, but it at least for a second gives me the opportunity to think about it the way somebody else would. So I suppose that those would be the things that, especially in what we do on a day to day. You and I talk about being jumping between different countries. You cannot do the same thing you do from one to the next.
Yeah.
So all of those types of things are, for me, just very important in what I do. I can't always say that it will work for somebody else. Thinking differently about it, even if it is just for a moment.
I love the piece that you're talking about, unsolicited. So you solicit, sometimes it's unsolicited. But I find sometimes unsolicited comments or advice, I want to churn it through the thought process because I said, you know what, there's something there. I may not agree with it, but there's something there. And maybe we can have a deeper discussion. And it's okay for people that say, well, this may sound like a dumb question or whatever. No, there's no such thing as a dumb question. No such thing. And I love. Go ahead. I love the fact that you brought that up on the advice. We always love, yeah, come on. Then someone said, no, I don't agree with that. Let's talk about that. Okay, good.
Look, and it is just, even if it is just, look, I love the word curiosity because curiosity goes into so many different directions. I mean, you and I can have a conversation the whole day about something that I might not actually, end up further exploring. But in that moment, I'm learning something from somebody else, from their point of view, that at least just, who knows, maybe somewhere down the line, something you said sparks again, and it becomes something that I can use or that I can work with. But sometimes those discussions, they're not always, they don't always turn out the best. Some of them can get heated, but but it's still good to have those different viewpoints and different opinions.
It is. Back during my career, when I was the CHRO, heads of HR in a couple of organizations, I always would create a board of directors. And the board of directors was comprised of people that was at the lowest level of the org chart. I just wanted to talk to them. I didn't want the big shots upstairs. I just wanted people to come in and share. And lots of times it was unsolicited. They said, well, you know what, you did this, but this is not working. Why would you not consider this? And I found over a period of years that I got more valuable insight from a cross section of people who did not agree with me as opposed to the one that just rubber stamps everything I said. And that's why that point resonated with me so much.
Look, that's a very good point you make. I mean, and I'm pretty certain you have been in that board meeting before where somebody is saying something and all you're thinking to yourself is, okay, now who's going to do that and how are they going to do that? So at the end of the day, it's great. It's fantastic to hear the big plans, and the overall strategic objectives and where we're going. But some of the most useful conversations is to actually speak to the person that has to end up doing it, to find out, is this actually practical? Can we do this? Is it implementable? So completely agree with you on that.
Yeah. So Anissa Reed says that listening to a different perspective is important. It shows you value the person as a whole person. And I love that. So let me just do a shout out for our guests here today. John Self started out as a reporter who's now a career development expert. He doesn't like me to call him that. So he asked me whether I had breakfast in bed in Singapore. No, I did not. I only eat once a day. Abid said, great advice. Take a pause. Grady Bland says, perseverance is the only choice in life. The alternative is nothingness. Oh, I love that.
That's very good.
Thriving in Messy Middles says, enjoying this convo. Again, from John. I'll come back to it, but there's something that says, good morning from Hong Kong. I'm supposed to be in Hong Kong in 2-3 weeks, so reach out to me and maybe we can connect. So let's continue the conversation. So who do you go to who does Marina go to when I just need to talk to somebody? If you could share that, because we all have our bouncing boards or people we can talk to or someone that always gives sound advice. I find my daughter was a good person to talk to sometimes. I say, I'm struggling with this. And she said, Dad, you're too full of yourself. Just take a step back. So who do you go to?
I have three primary people in my life that I go to.
Okay.
The first one is if I need advice, whether I know whether I'm going to like it or not, I go to Stain. Okay, because chances of me and Stain disagreeing is very high. And if we disagree, then I know, I need to dig deeper. If we agree, then it's surface level. Then it's easy to solve.
Yeah.
Following on from Stain, I'll phone Dr. Wada, who
Hold
I've
it just
known.
1 second. Hold it just 1 second. This is Professor Stain, who's a dear friend of mine, and we've worked together over a period of time. So the audience may not know he's one of the gurus in the space and one of the executives of PCL here. So a quick shout out to my friend.
Quick shout out to him. He's somewhere here in the audience. I know he is. Um, but then secondly, I'll go to Dr. Wada because Dr. Wada, who's our third partner and also the chairman of the company, he has a lot more of a calming perspective in the way he looks at things. And
Mm-hmm.
then lastly, Ron, I will take all of that advice and I'll phone my sister. My sister is about 10 years younger than I am. She's the complete opposite of me.
I
She
know.
does not look at the world the way I do. She does not see it the way I do. And half the time, she will say something that I'll go to myself, yeah, okay. And she'll also call me out on it. Okay, when I need to, when I need to hear it, whether I want to or not, she'll call me out on it. So the third person that I go to is my sister. So I'll take all the advice that I got from all of the gurus and all of the big people, and I'll phone
Yeah.
my sister. I'll tell her, okay, so this is what I'm dealing with. What do you think? Um, and most of the time, she'll listen to me. She'll have me talk it through. And half the time, she's very good at letting me figuring out my own, wheels that I need to figure out here, even if it is just
Uh-huh.
with a little bit of guidance. But those are the three people I talk to. So for me, that's them.
Yeah, lots of times that outside person that has no clear perspective of the work you do each and every day, that gives you a unbiased kind of a
Very
insight.
much so. Very much
Yes,
so.
yes, yeah.
Completely.
So the other two people I was able to use this to get it up. I want to do a quick shout out to Peter Piccinini. Every Friday morning when we start out, he says, "Great way to start the weekend." Peter started as a in the arts in New York City, stage performance, and now he's a wealth manager. He moved. That's a long. He was a prior guest, as well as Gary Bland. Gary says, "Good morning from Atlanta." I just quoted something he said earlier, as well as Anissa, who's from Georgia, and Katrina says, "Good morning from Hong Kong." Katrina, connect because I'm supposed to be there sometime soon. So as we try and walk through this whole journey about we talked through mentorship and all those kind of approaches. What is your approach to developing people? You see talent, and it could be kind of all over the place. How do you flip that mentoring and you become the mentor and they become the mentee? I think I got that right. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. um, like Ron, I'm somebody that pushes back quite a lot in terms of thinking and doing things. I I have probably driven a lot of people insane in my life by saying when they give me the advice or they tell me how it's done, where I tell them this can't be the only way. There has to be a different way. I might not know yet, but there has to be a different way.
Yeah.
Um, and because of that, that's kind of how I work with the people in the company as well, with the team. Um, I want them to go and figure out how to do things themselves. I want them to come to me with ideas. I will give a task or an instruction, but I won't tell you what to do or how to do it. If you get stuck, by all means, give me a call. Let's go online. Let's brainstorm. Let's talk it through. But go and figure it out. Come back to me with what you think should be
Mm-hmm.
done, what you think this needs to look like. Um, I love seeing how other people come up with things because it's a very high likelihood that it's not going to be what I would have done. And that's exactly what I want because if I was going to do it, I might as well have done it myself.
Yeah.
Now, there are days where, I do get something, I'm not entirely okay with what we have. So let's go online, let's brainstorm, let's figure this out, let's change
Yeah.
something here, change something there. But the core of it, the idea behind it, I still want the other person to tell me, okay, here are your thoughts, let's go in this direction. I still
Mhm.
want them to come back to me, push back with what is being done, and give me something different. Whether
Mhm.
that is what a social media post needs to look like, what a document needs to look like, or what a new idea on a program needs to look like.
Mhm. I love that. My way of looking at that is someone come to me. I said, you know what? I don't really know. So you give me your thoughts. You take a step back and give me your thoughts. You closer to it than I am, and we'll start from there.
Yeah, look, and
That's what we're. Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's kind of also how you allow people to learn. I
Mhm.
I really think that if I had to tell the team this is what I want, how I want you to do it, what it needs to look like, all of that, I'm disadvantaging them. Then they don't have the opportunity or the time to go and figure it out and learn what to do. At
Mhm.
the end of the day, there's a lot more to be learned from your own mistakes and you trying to do something yourself than basically just being told exactly what to do and what it needs to look like, and then you're not really learning something. You're basically just following orders then.
I've always figured the same thing because that's where the growth. I look at it. That's where the growth curve comes in when you figure it out, and we start from there. Your
Mhm.
idea, and let's fine tune it from there, as
Yeah.
opposed to. I think lots of times managers, old school managers, want to be the answer person. I've got all the answers, and I've always said that the greatest manager in the world will always say, "I don't have a clue,
I don't know.
but you help me."
Yeah, and it is. I mean, I love the fact that I can ask my team to do something and they will send it to me as a first attempt, second attempt. Try and go and do it, because by the time you got it right, that is
Hmm.
something that you've learned that's going to stick with you for the
Yeah.
next time and going forward. And then what's even greater is, the next time I get it, they took from what they had and they made adjustments and changes to it. So, that's even better. So it keeps evolving, it keeps building. So love it.
You saw the post that just came up, right?
I
Dave, can you
still
go back? Could you go back to that one? Uh, Professor Steen, she's always right.
well,
So in the U.S. they call it the good housekeeping seal of approval. If Steen gives you that, that's the deal.
Ron, how do you know I didn't tell him to say that?
Well, I know him, and I've been knowing him for years. He would never convey that through someone else. That's
That
just
is
what.
very true. That is
Yeah.
absolutely true. Yes.
Yeah. So when I saw that, I said, nope, you didn't give him notes to say, when I say this, you're going to come in to say this. I know that. So thriving in the messy middle says, so dangerous to need to be the answer person. We never know where the best ideas come from. And this is exactly what we're talking about here. So I want to ask you this. How do you grow and develop personally? I mean, you've been doing this for a while, you've talked through the journey. How do you stay ahead of the curve? Because you're developing leaders across the globe, specifically the Middle East. But how do you grow personally to keep so many things are going through, articles are being written, research is being done?
Ron, I'm going to be very honest with you and tell you, I don't spend a lot of time reading articles or
Okay.
listening to podcasts. Um, when needed, and there's something really interesting and something that really piques my interest, I will do that.
Okay.
I I learn a lot more from the people that I work with on a day-to-day basis. When I'm in Saudi and I have to go around visiting people, I actually attend some of the training sessions directly, not to hear what the facilitator is saying, but to speak with the participants afterwards and find out what are you thinking? Did this work? Did it
Mhm.
not work? Is there something we can do differently? Is there something we can change? I do the same, with pretty much all of our classes. I try to attend some of our training sessions myself just to find out, is this working for you?
Mhm.
Because I'm in the company, I built the company, I wrote the training program, whatever. So that saying from you're too close to the tree to see the woods. I'm not, it's like when you write the document, you send it to somebody else to look at because they might pick up a spelling mistake.
Yeah.
I go and ask the people that's doing the training to find out, is this working? Is there something new that we can look at? Um, I can also quite easily disappear behind my laptop for an entire day because there's some new gadget or some new software that has come out. Um, and as opposed to going reading about it, I would rather play with it.
Okay.
I love being the first person to play around with something, to figure it out, test it, see if it works.
Okay.
But my own personal growth, talking to people, interacting with the people that we work with, sitting down with clients, asking questions, figuring out, what do you want? Because that outside in perspective on what we do is
Yeah.
really, really important.
Mm, mm. I love that because one of the key things that when I finish a session, I always thank everybody in the room for helping me learn. I said,
Mm,
thank you for helping me learn because they come from different industries. I had a young lady last week, this week, or whatever it was, earlier this week, and she works for the global distributor of I won't say what it is, Mercedes Benz, Rolls Royce, and all these kinds of perspectives, and talking about the client base and understanding it from a perspective of wealth and then understanding it from someone else who's not there. I learn more in my sessions, I think. And I always applaud people because thank you for helping me learn. It
mm.
is the same thing you're talking about. Because I could have read a white paper or chat GPT, the short version of that white paper, and got that. But when I get it from an actual participant,
Mm.
it's the same concept.
No, look, and I mean, we actually, for the first time in our existence, and when I talk about the company, I'm talking about the company's existence, and this, we work with executives. They're either already in a position, or
Yeah.
they're just starting into that position. We did a training session about 3 weeks ago, just as the summer was closing off in August, um, with high schoolers between the ages of 15 and 17.
Oh my God. I would love that. Go ahead. Go ahead. Tell the story.
Um, and I did not introduce myself as the CEO. I did not have the faculty introduce me as the CEO. I was there to help. Let's make sure the tech works. Let's make sure that everybody is logged in and signed in. So, zero introductions in terms of who I am or what my role is in the organization. Ron, the feedback, the open, honest, extremely candid, straightforward feedback from a teenager on what we are doing was
Yes.
phenomenal.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, everything from how we communicate right through to how we delivered.
Mm.
It made such a difference. There's an entire, I mean, there's an entire debrief meeting with the whole team, the entire organization
Wow.
coming up on feedback that we got from these training sessions. Because when you're dealing with executives, the feedback is always great, it's always constructive, but it's never so straightforward and honest that you actually think to yourself, man, if this is going to be my future target audience, I might want to start looking at what I'm doing now already.
Yeah. I always talk to groups, specifically in human resources, concerning the DNA of a workforce is changing.
Hmm.
I remember giving a speech in Pakistan, and all the CEOs are getting up, giving big talk, strategy from to all these big plans, but no one mentioned the people aspect of it. And when it came up for my spot to speak, I kind of nailed it to them. I said, "I fantastic strategic plans, but where was the combination of the people that's going to drive the bus to get us to all of those?" I said, because there
Hmm.
was no time to spend on that. And my suggestion to you was to spend some time with the people who's going to be the people to drive the bus and the people sitting on the bus to drive strategy one, two, three. And they kind of looked at me. But what happened after the session was over, they said, thank you. Thank you for giving us the nudge because we knew it, but we didn't really go through it in our presentation.
No, it is. I mean, and that's the biggest thing of all. I mean, our target audience as a training company will change, but my workforce will change. Where I used to be the youngest, I will
Yeah.
always be the youngest when it comes to the other two business partners. But my
Mhm.
staff will be younger and younger and younger as we go along. And
Mhm.
you know, kind of getting that information. And that saying, a child will tell you exactly the way it is. And at the ages between, of 15 and 17, it's about as straightforward as you can get it. So, and they were honest about everything. And that helps because it's not just going to impact what we do going forward as a company and what we put back out into the market. It's going to help in terms of what we do as a company and how we run it internally and how we deal with our workforce. That's going to be changing so significantly that there is going to come a day where I am going to be, the old, person sitting in the in the boardroom.
The more seasoned person. Yep, this sounds a little.
The more senior, more experienced.
The more seasoned person. I'm not the oldest. I'm more seasoned, and I can bring. You know what? If you could go back to your younger self from the point you're at now, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would definitely tell myself not to take myself so seriously. I mean, with everything that has happened in my life, I mean, I am probably my own worst critic. And I have been my entire life. No, Ron, I mean, if if it goes wrong, it's my fault, okay? It's nobody else's fault, it's mine. But I would tell myself not to take myself so seriously. I am going to fail. I need to learn from that. I'm going to make mistakes. I need to grow from that. I am going to have days where, I'm not getting up out of bed, and that's okay. So, and then just not take it so seriously. Life is serious enough. Life is challenging enough, and life can sometimes be, critical in itself. I don't have to add more pressure to myself by doing that as well. So that's one lesson that I would have wanted to learn earlier in my life.
Yeah. We talked about my Singapore of staying in the bed all day. You know what I felt was really kind of kicking around in my brain as I was laying there was my father. In growing up, your parents instill values and all these things. And my father he was a very successful businessman. And one of the things I keep coming back to, he says, the sun should never catch you in bed. And as I lay there, I'm thinking about that. I said, whoa, Dad, if you're looking now, I'm in bed and it's 12 o'clock midday and I have no plans on getting up. So sometimes you get these anchors, but I realized that was in his era and that worked, but no, not now. I can't do that anymore.
No, look, Ron, tongue in cheek, that's why we have blockout curtains. The sun will never find me in bed. But it is, but it is also, as you say, that was in their era, in their generation. It's not necessarily different now. I think the only difference is now between back then and now is that there's more awareness around it. There's more acceptance of, having to take a day where you just you reconnect with yourself as a person. You take the time to think through what it is that needs to be done. And even on that day, if you think of nothing else, there's a fantastic book that I will go and try and find the reference for you, but it was written by David Rock. It talks about your brain at work. And in the book, it talks about, your brain normally has several ideas running at the same time and several thoughts running at the same time. But you can only manage so much of them in the forefront, which is part of what you're actively busy with. While in the back end, these ideas and these thoughts are still mulling around. So even if you're reading a book on that day, chances are inspiration might hit with whatever you are struggling with while you're reading a book that has absolutely nothing to do with what you are doing on a day to day. So, and that's kind of the whole thing, take the day, breathe. You never know when inspiration might strike.
Wanted to some of the comments. Abid says, I can relate this more old person in the boardroom or no more seasoned person in the boardroom. Okay, so that's just a play on words, older to seasoned, in doing that. And Professor Stein says, I call him Professor Stein, true leaders are learners, not teachers in doing that. Work from anywhere, work anytime, and don't forget to play. All of this comes back. Great platform. Sam Gonzalez, thank you for listening in. He says, great platform and conversation. One of the key, so the concept of the CEO series started during COVID, and there was nothing to do. So we started kind of sending out QAs and people posted on the website. It wasn't getting any traction. And a day said, why don't we just go live? And I'm terrified. How are we going to go live? I don't want to go live to everything is live. You can't, what about the mistakes? And we just tried it. And we've been doing this since COVID. And we built up a following. So everyone that's listening, like, share every Friday. And I thought of this when Sam said, great platform and conversation. We do this every Friday, you know, in doing this. Another question I'm going to ask you as we begin the process of closing out is that, what are you most excited about as it relates to the future?
At the end of the day, I am just the thing that excites me right now is to see where we're heading with this. As much as I try to plan my day, I kind of enjoy it when my day isn't planned. So what excites me most is that I actually don't know. I don't know yet where we're going. I don't know what we're going to be doing, but I'm really looking forward to figuring it out as I go. So for me right now, you know, as they say, you never know what tomorrow is going to bring, but you might as well wait till tomorrow and find out. So that excites me because who knows what comes next.
Who knows? I love that. Who knows? So would like for you to share some closing thoughts. So one of the reasons I just mentioned to you why we created the CEO series was to bring together leaders and educate people that's struggling with this whole thing of corporate leadership, all these kinds of things, young people coming out of school. What would you like to share as your closing thought, a closing thought?
So back when we started Platform for Connected Leadership, we had this, it became our mantra where we said that, you know, everyone has greatness in them, not the potential for it, they have it. But it requires the right guidance to bring forth that greatness. So as a closing thought, you know, for me, it's always about that. What are we busy with in our life, whether it is big or small, that is helping or inspiring that level of greatness? Is what we are doing going to make a difference, not just for us, but for the people that we work with or the people that we are working for, or even just, you know, someone that you've never met before? What part of what we are doing today is meant to inspire that greatness for tomorrow? So
I love that. So to all the people that are commenting here, thriving in the messy middle, love this. Sounds like enjoy the journey. Anissa said, healthy personal critique is okay. Offer yourself grace every time because the world loves to tear you down and you got to keep building back up. I'm just paraphrasing that last piece there. So thank you everyone for listening. Share this. This goes on every Friday morning in the US, evening in Dubai. And thank you so much for being a guest. So what I'd like to do is we close out. Hang on, and we're going to officially close out. So thank you, everyone, for listening, and come back next Friday. We'll see you here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Take the CEO series with you anywhere, anytime. All episodes are now available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and major streaming platforms. It's not just an interview. It's a masterclass in leadership.